Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06 on this Friday as we wrap up a very busy week in the nation's capital and send you into the weekend, a holiday weekend as well, as Thanksgiving's right around the corner. Thanks so much for letting us be a part of your morning routine. Coming up in 10 minutes, we're going to speak with Dr. Jennifer London about, history, American history, as we honor that this month. And sadly, your schools aren't doing the job that they should. We'll talk to Dr. London about it. Also at 7:35, Bram Weinstein. We've got a championship game this weekend in Washington, D.C., and Bram will be at the call. He'll also be doing the play-by-play for the Commanders. We'll get to both those games. And then at 8:05, Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch. Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good. Happy Friday.
Yeah, why not? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Are you going to start your Thanksgiving preparation this weekend?
Yes.
You're cooking in your house?
Absolutely. I'm doing some cooking. I'm going to be
some cooking.
Picking up the last. Yeah, we're doing a mix of catering and cooking.
Catering?
So, a little bit.
You're having Thanksgiving catered?
Not all of it.
Huh.
I'm going to be doing a lot of
Sounds
cooking.
kind of bougie.
It's not bougie.
All right. I'll be cooking every last dish in my house.
Okay, well, I'll get to your level one day, Larry.
Not exactly my point. Also, I meant to ask, have you been notified by the transition team yet about any positions in the new administration?
I haven't. So,
Did you put your name in?
I did not.
All right.
I have lots of jobs and I'm happy.
We should bring everybody up to speed if they haven't already heard the news that yesterday Trump's transition team suffered its first casualty as Matt Gaetz took himself out of the running for Attorney General. I think this is just a question of numbers. He took the temperature of senators, and he was told basically this ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And rather than have a protracted fight, as he put it, that would cause damage to the transition team, he said, listen, I'm going to take myself out of here. I want to ensure that the Trump team gets the best possible start it can as they take office, and he did not want to be a distraction. Almost immediately, or at least within hours, President Trump's transition team did accept the announcement from Matt Gaetz and then announced his replacement. It would be Pam Bondi, longtime Attorney General from the state of Florida, and also a member of the first Trump White House. She joined the White House in 2019, was a legal advisor, and was one of the defense attorneys for the first impeachment trial.
That's right.
That's Pam Bondi.
She is absolutely a very qualified woman. And a strong and a smart woman at that.
It has also been pointed out that she is incredibly attractive. Trump does surround himself with really good-looking people. Let's face it, men and women. I mean, I'm as straight as the next guy, but that Pete Hegseth, that's one good-looking dude.
Well, let's go back to The Apprentice days. There were no ugly people on The Apprentice, and they certainly didn't make it to the last round. Yeah. But that said, yes, a lot of the people in the Trump orbit are very attractive looking people. And I'm all here for the fashions.
Yeah, and this is in no way to diminish Ms. Bondi's accomplishments.
And her ability to take on the job and kill it.
No, I'm not doing a Mark Cuban thing who claims that Donald Trump isn't ever around smart, intelligent, and powerful. And in fact, Trump has a ton of women that are part of his inner circle, and they're all attractive. They are, and again,
nothing wrong with it. We need beautiful people.
I mentioned this earlier in the show, and one of our listeners here, Ted, said Pam Bondi may be good looking, but she's no Janet Reno.
Ted here.
Well, I mean, everyone has a type.
Whose type is Janet Reno's?
Yeah, I got nothing for you. Fox News, by the way, announcing this a little earlier this morning, had a headline here: Trump taps Pam Bondi. Trump taps Pam Bondi.
We were going to pick our minds out of the gutter.
That's an unfortunate phraseology there. They should probably Trump taps Pam Bondi.
I think use another term, use another verb. I mean, Trump
tap. They could find another one.
An extra, letters.
Trump selects Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Trump appoints Pam Bondi.
Nominates.
Trump nominates Pam Bondi.
Noms is fine. Can
you
say Trump noms Pam Bondi? I think that's word. That's okay.
Meanwhile, the drama behind Matt Gaetz stepping down apparently was, as I said, a numbers game. Jonathan Swan reporting yesterday afternoon. Matt Gaetz told people close to him that he concluded after conversations with senators and their staffs that there were at least 4 Republican senators who were implacably opposed to his nomination. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, John Curtis of Utah, and, by the way, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. Understand something. Matt Gaetz rubbed people the wrong way.
Yes,
That's part of, I think, why Donald Trump liked him, why a lot of people in the transition team liked him. But that also makes it harder when you need support from Capitol Hill. Mitch McConnell was the focus of a lot of ire from Matt Gaetz. Now, you may argue, well, Mitch should get over it and put party first and support the president. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that when politics becomes personal, it can get ugly. And that's also a reason why he didn't get a lot of voices of support from the House of Representatives, because I can't overstate this enough. People in the House of Representatives, elected Republicans, they do not like Matt Gaetz because many of those Republicans are there because Kevin McCarthy helped get them there, either through fundraising, recruiting them to run for office, and they think that Matt Gaetz was incredibly disloyal to Kevin McCarthy. And I'm not wading into this to say who's right or who's wrong. I'm just telling you the reality of the situation. If Matt Gaetz was looking for a lifeline from his Republican colleagues on Capitol Hill, there weren't a whole lot of takers jumping up and saying, I'll help you out, Matt, because they really are angry and they feel sort of vindicated here by Matt Gaetz having to step out.
Well, and I think it's the difference between Matt Gaetz and, let's say, Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik went to the mat when a lot of those congressional hearings against Harvard University presidents, other college presidents, was definitely willing to go in the news. She was a fighter. She took people on. She was not afraid of being that fighter that I think also President Trump was looking for in Matt Gaetz. But that said, she has a lot of friends, and there's a way, sometimes there's a way of conducting business and being a bomb thrower that doesn't throw bombs in your own camp.
Yep. We'll see what happens with Matt Gaetz, whether he is going to try to vie for that open Senate seat now in Florida, whether he's going to get another job within the Trump administration.
He
maybe
could stay in Congress, right? Because he resigned this session of Congress, but not the next. He's already been reelected to the next session of Congress. Congress.
I think so. But I would think that some of the headwinds that were keeping him from being Attorney General, and that has to do with whatever the Ethics Committee was going to release and everything, and then that report is now squelched. If he comes back into the House, I think that reopens the ethics investigation. I don't know. I mean, Matt Gaetz knows, and he'll let you know as soon as he wants to let you know. He could run for governor in Florida if he wants to. We shall see. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi is getting a ringing endorsement from MSNBC as Attorney General.
Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear, because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
Allegedly, sir, allegedly. And by the way, you saw a lot of people from the left saying, whoa. Pam Bondi's the option? Pam Bondi's the option? Wait, can we have Matt Gaetz back, please?
Well, Ellie Koenig over at CNN said, quote, she is without question qualified to be the AG. She's a prosecutor for 20 years in Florida. 8 of these, she was the AG of the state. That's a very big, very complicated job.
Yeah, here he is.
Pam Bondi is, without a question, qualified to be Attorney General. She's been a prosecutor for 20 years in Florida. For 8 of those, she was the Attorney General of the state. That's a very big, very complicated job, and that level of experience is on par with or better than most United States Attorneys General that we've seen over the past 50 years or so.
Yeah, but she wasn't doing that job at the federal level. She was doing it at the state level, and because that's the concern. It's like, will she be able to go in and clean house the way Matt Gaetz was ready to clean house at DOJ?
Well, I mean, listen, she's gone toe-to-toe. In 2018, she led 19 other Republican states in suing the Obama administration over the Affordable Care Act, banning people with pre-existing conditions or charging them higher premiums. I mean, she's tackled same-sex marriage, LGBTQ rights, the healthcare companies.
That's good stuff on the issues.
Yeah.
What about the people? The issue at the DOJ right now is the politicization of the department because of the personnel who are in place who seem to stay there forever. The question is, will she be ready to fire everyone? That's the question. We'll see. It's 7:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Jamie Whitten.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Traffic and weather brought to you by Hadid Carpet Cleaning.
We're joined now by Dr. Jennifer London. You know her, of course, as the host of the Pluribus Unum show on Saturday, 7 p.m. right here on WMAL. I've had the pleasure of doing several events with Dr. London, and she is a force to be reckoned with and a great American patriot. Dr. London, thanks for joining us this morning.
Larry, thank you so much for having me on. I wanted to tell your audience about National American History and Founders Month, which is this month, December. This was an initiative I started in 2019 to educate Americans beyond the modern attacks on our history and founders. Do you know that less than half of Americans surveyed today can actually name all three branches of our government?
Yeah.
And our founders they're more vilified for their faults rather than recognized for their greatness. And so as my husband and I watched children grow, we wanted them to look beyond those social media influencers and celebrities to find role models that actually made a lasting impact on our country.
Yeah.
And so this was the basis for our initiative.
This is a great thing. I love the idea of National American History and Founders Month, and which is November, by the way. So this is good. This is the time to talk about this, because we're living in a time, Dr. London, where the statues and imagery and even names of our founders are being torn down and removed from buildings, and so we're never going to have that get a grasp of that real important and rich history. How are we to sort of work with that? How are we to push back on this agenda that's out there to sort of erase that part of American history, the very founders, the very incredibly courageous men who founded our nation? We wouldn't be here without them.
Well, that's true, Larry, because Washington and Jefferson both said an educated citizenry or an informed citizenry is vital to a free country of self-government. You know who controls our government? It's not the Republicans, it's not the Democrats, it's the people. And so this is why this month, and we chose it because it's early in the school year, and there are, American milestones like elections, Veterans Day, and Thanksgiving that we celebrate. And the way I think we get to these people to help, educate them, as Washington and Jefferson suggested, is we're actually working on building coalitions, partners in government, schools, museums, historical societies. We also have our radio and podcast here on WMAL, Pluribus Unum, and this month we've highlighted some of, people who understand our history. We've had interviews with the president of Mount Vernon, the Bill of Rights Institute, the Society of Cincinnati, and the Museum of the American Revolution. And so actually in 2020, November became an official federal observance by presidential proclamation, and 23 governors around the country of both parties also issued proclamations that were similar in recognizing this month.
So are you continuing to gather more governors, more support at the state level for what you're doing?
We're continuing to solicit proclamations to engage governors. And again, as you both know, we're really building up to the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country in 2006. So I would like to see this. I mean, what we're working toward is to make this a year-round effort and to hopefully make November every year an annual month of recognition to focus on our founders and our, founding documents and really understand our history. Because as you said, Larry, removing the statues and names of buildings removes the discussion. I mean, we can't have a dialogue. We can't know our history if we remove part of it.
Yeah, they're in the process of doing it right now out in Loudoun County for some of the elementary and middle schools whose names have, benign names, like of a plantation that used to be on the property there where the school now resides. And it's like nobody connects those dots. It doesn't really affect anybody, but there's virtue, Dr. London, in going out of your way to signal, look at me, I'm really concerned about these things. But they're losing sight of hundreds of years of history and legacy of great Americans.
Yeah, and I think I saw a quote several months ago by a descendant of one of James Madison's slaves. And it's actually what she said that made this so profound for me, and I think it's something we should all remember. She was concerned about the imbalance between the focus of slavery and the accomplishments of James Madison. And what she said, and I'm going to quote, there were hundreds of thousands of slave owners, but not hundreds of thousands who wrote the Constitution. And so I thought that was just a very profound way of understanding why we need to remember and recognize our founders, what they did. They were unique. They were special. They were the right people at the right time. And, our country, my husband and I traveled all over the world, and people who travel or people who read understand this. This is the only country in the world that offers the freedoms and opportunities that we have here. No other country offers what we have. And I think a lot of Americans take for granted what we have. They don't understand that this, as Reagan said, this could be gone in one generation.
Dr. Jennifer London, what I love about you is that you see a problem, you see an issue, you want to fix it. You don't wait for the Department of Education or some other federal agency to fix it. You just say, what can I do to make this better? And you do it. And a part of that is by raising awareness for National American History and Founders Month, which is this November, and also the great show and podcast, E Pluribus Unum. Again, it's Saturdays at 7 p.m. But I have a suggestion. Moms, dads, while you're making Thanksgiving dinner Thursday morning, how about play this podcast? Play the podcast from this month of E Pluribus Unum, where they focus on our founders and our history. Let that play in the kitchen, so when the kids are in and they're, sneaking a little bite of the stuffing or something, they'll actually get educated too. What a great Thanksgiving tradition that could be. Dr. London, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much.
Larry and Patrice, it's been a pleasure. And by the way, you can sign up for my newsletter at American History and FoundersMonth.com for updates, news, alerts, and promote it in your schools, your libraries, your organizations, and tune into our podcast and our radio program on Saturday. Thank you again.
Thank you. That's great. I didn't know you had a newsletter. I'm going to sign up myself. Thank you, Dr. London. It is 7:24.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36. It's O'Connor and Company on this Friday morning. Coming up at 8:05, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. That's Patrice Onwuka.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Sure, why not? I'm Larry O'Connor, and joining us right now, because we've got our obvious sports music playing. It's Bram Weinstein, of course, our colleague here at ESPN 630, and the voice of the Washington Commanders. Bram, good morning. Happy game weekend.
Hi, Larry. Patrice, how are you?
Morning.
Well, all right. It's weird. It's like, a loss to Philly in Philadelphia is always tough to take. However, the team sort of fought hard and looked pretty good. And let's face it, it is the Eagles. And I'm looking forward to hosting them back home here. I mean, were there some positive takeaways? And the fact that they had, because it was a Thursday game, they had some time to rest and recover their aching bones and muscles. How's the team right now?
I think the last part's the most important part, at least to me. I don't love making excuses, but they needed a bye really bad. Like things were piling up. The quarterback was injured. He's hit a point in the season where he could have used a physical break. The offensive line had a number of injuries that had piled up. Cornelius Lucas was out. Brandon Coleman was dealing with injuries. So was Tyler Biotish. Andrew Wiley hadn't played the previous week against Pittsburgh, and they turned around and he gutted it out against Philadelphia. And they played a really good team. And it's just, sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play them, and they just picked the wrong night to play them. So I feel like I'm with you. I can't wait to see them play them again, honestly, because they were toe-to-toe with them into the fourth quarter, and then they went for a fourth down. They didn't make it. They could have taken the lead, and the air was out of the balloon, like big time. And it was like an avalanche, came down the hill on them. And it was really the first time that I've kind of seen, a 4 or 5 minute period where it all just spiraled the wrong way. And I agree. I just think everybody needs a break, and they got it. And the schedule this week, it's their arch rival.
Yes, they host the Cowboys, but this is this is not the Cowboys that we've had to deal with in the past.
No, it's not. Shoes on the other foot. We lived this a year ago. We lived what this was at this point of the season last year here. It was pretty clear the change was coming. There were people that were checked out. There were situations with injuries that were piling up. And the Cowboys are living that right now. They have a ton of injuries, including their quarterback. Their offensive line's a mess. They have a number of prominent defensive players who haven't been playing. There's already open talk about who the next coach is going to be. They're on a 5-game losing streak.
Parts of the roof of their stadium are falling down.
Correct.
It's fabulous.
Yeah. It is, boy, mirror images, right, Larry?
Right.
It really is. So, but I will say this, because, on a few occasions where things have been really, wrong with Washington up in this rivalry, a couple of years ago when the team was missing like half its roster due to a COVID outbreak. They won 56-20 or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
When things were really a mess here one year with a number of injuries and quarterback issues, they brought their benches to our stadium and put their logo out there.
Right.
So I would just like to remind our team, while they're all new, that I'd like to see some foot put down on them this week because they're owed it. So I don't want anybody feeling sorry for them because they're in dire straits. I hope the Commanders beat them 60-0.
That's right.
Weekend.
Do what the Lions are doing right now to everyone who's laughed at them. And by the way, it's also like an Army-Navy game where it doesn't matter what the record is. There's something different about this game, and so I hope that they don't take this team lightly. Hey, real fast, you mentioned injuries. Jaden Daniels has just not been the same since that rib injury. I love that he's playing. I love that he's still scrambling when he needs to and running for yards, but he's just not the same. Is there an update there?
So I think, frankly, it's just he needed a break. They went out of their way to announce to everybody he is not injured and, repeated that over and over, that he's past this. And they've said, and, you have to buy this. But I do, they haven't really practiced together in a few weeks. He's been injured. The offensive line's been injured. They had a really short week, so there was no practice, real practice going into the Philadelphia game. This is the first week that they've been back together again. Let's see if the timing is back on. Let's see if Jaden looks a little healthier again. And listen, they're seeing a finish line to a real break. They got Dallas and Tennessee, both under 500 teams, both at home. Then they get a bye week. If they win those both, they're 9-4. So they're in really, really, really good shape if they can get to that point.
All right. Well, Bram, we've got another big game coming up this weekend. I want to shift to the Washington Spirit. So
we turn to metric football. Yes, I see.
The other football that the rest of the world calls football. The National Women's Soccer League, the Washington Spirit, the local team here, is actually going to the National Women's Soccer League up against the Orlando Pride. Tell us about what we can expect coming out of this game, and really for the Spirits. From what I understand, new Michelle Kang, who took over the club, has really invested in the team and has built it up. So what are you expecting?
She's got them to this is the championship game.
Exactly.
This is amazing.
It is. This is a really, I'll give you the very cliff note, because I know you don't have a ton of time. I'll give you a very cliff note story of their season, which is really remarkable. They hired a coach who was coaching in Barcelona and has this a ridiculous record. He's 82-6, some crazy record. But he wasn't going to show up here until the middle of this season. So his what would be eventual assistant took over as the interim coach at the beginning of the season. They traded away 3 top stars and ended up getting draft picks. So they rebooting the whole team. And they also are very fortunate that they have superstars like Trinity Rodman on this team. And somehow, some way, they just kind of cobbled it together and just kind of kept winning early. They had this rookie, Bethune, who ended up being the rookie of the year and broke an assist record 2 months before the season was over. But then she gets hurt and she's out. Their glue player, Andy Sullivan, midfielder, they call her the mom and the glue of the team. She gets hurt, she's out. So you would think eventually some of this would pile up and it would kind of stop them, and it hasn't. And in the playoffs, they were down they have not led in a match until the 80s. They haven't led in a match at all, actually, in regulation time in the playoffs. They've come back twice.
Yeah.
With 5 minutes left on the clock. And then last week at Audi Field, their goalkeeper did something I've literally never seen before. She stopped 3 penalty kicks in a row.
Whoa.
That helped them get to the championship. So there's some destiny going on here.
Yeah.
The team they're playing is outstanding. They've led start to finish. And in fact, they were very, very close to an undefeated season, which is absurd. When you play from March to November to have an undefeated, they were very, very close to doing that. So this is a real tall task, but I believe in them because they're magic. And so I'm hoping we're talking next week about a championship here in town.
That would be awesome. And, we are the District of Champions. So we do like it when championships are won.
Absolutely.
So it'll be fun to
take
bring
that
one
and
home.
a Super Bowl, right, Larry?
That's right. And hey, what about Stanley Cup? Come on. It's Ovi's magic. Once he gets back on the rink again.
That's right.
This will be fun. And I often make fun of soccer because I love football so much, real football. But the fact that the Spirit score so many goals after the the 80-minute mark. Really, I mean, that is exciting, and it's fun. You never count them out. They're aptly named, the Spirit. And they're playing the Pride. Come on. Pride cometh before the fall. Yeah, Pride is sinful in nature. Spirit is what keeps us going.
I see what you're doing there.
Bram, I'm just worried that you're not going to have a voice for the Commanders game because you put your heart and soul into calling these matches. And, if the Spirit win, you're not going to have a voice for the football game.
I promise you that I'm taking a lot of precautions here to make sure that I get through this weekend because I'm excited. And on the point of the Spirit, come to a match at Audi Field next year. Trust me, you'll be a fan for life of this team.
Okay.
Their atmospheres are really incredible for their matches. It's really great.
And, of course, I would be neglectful in saying that if you can't make it to Audi Field, you can always listen to every game on ESPN 630. Right?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bram. Have a great. You're going to have a very busy weekend, my friend, and I know you're loving every second of it. Enjoy.
It's going to be a great one. I hope a championship and a win over the Cowboys. That's the best weekend ever. Let's do that.
7:40. Our Critter News segment is often fun, heartwarming, cute, cuddly, intriguing, sometimes even political. This one is absolutely terrifying.
It is.
According to the Washington Post, an animal shelter is looking for a home or multiple homes for about 1,000 mice.
Oh, my goodness.
The New
Good luck
Hampshire
with that.
SPCA is currently overwhelmed by, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the little rodents that have been turned in, because their lives must be protected. And I guess they're looking for a home. First of all, who adopts one mouse, let alone thousands of mice?
Well, actually, who brings in a bin of mice to the New Hampshire SPCA? That's what happened on November 11th. This person, it says an anonymous and overwhelmed owner, brought a couple of bins of mice and surrendered the animals. Well, why did they not just set the bins on fire? Problem solved.
Pour gasoline on it. And,
problem solved. I mean, really, it's not that hard. Or just pour, get a hose in there, turn on the water, drown the mice, and then shake the water out and toss the bin. I mean, come on now.
So this anonymous person, and no wonder they're anonymous, about 400 mice are currently at the New Hampshire SPCA. Another 400 have been distributed across other local shelters, and about 20 mice have been adopted by local residents. So 20 out of the 800 have actually been adopted. And I'm thinking those 20 people who have adopted the mice, they're also snake owners. Because if you've ever owned a snake.
That is only the only reason to keep a mouse
is to feed the mouse to your pet snake. Mice have a rapid reproduction cycle.
Yes.
They can have offspring as early as 4 to 6 weeks of age, and the gestation period is only 21 days. Do the math.
I love this. All the females can be housed together, but the males sometimes fight when they are confined. So what was going on in those two bins? Can you imagine?
We know what was going on. The New Hampshire SPCA quickly turned into a circus, the shelter workers said, as the bins containing dozens of mice started piling up. They needed to separate the males and females. Oh, my lordy. Dennison said the shelter has a chaotic and lively energy now that they've taken in hundreds of mice. I'm sure the cats at the shelter are overwhelmed as well. They're like licking their chops. Let me at them.
This is insane. This is insanity to me. Why not just destroy the bin of mice? It is not that hard.
By the way, remember we mentioned that Korean soldiers have joined the Russian fight there in Ukraine. They sent 1,000 troops over there. It's like, well, what's Russia going to do for Korea? Well, now we've learned, North Korea specifically, Russian President Vladimir Putin has sent 70 animals from Moscow to Pyongyang, including an African lion, cockatoos, and multiple brown bears. Now, my guess is that these animals are being sent over there to enhance the zoo experience, but
those people need meat. They also included 2 domestic yaks, 40 mandarin ducks, and 5 white cockatoos. This sounds like the reprise for the 12 Days of Christmas.
It's 7:53.